When I woke up, a voice came over the speaker in the MRI tube, and I'm assuming it was either the technician or doctor or somebody. And they said, before we ask you any questions or tell you anything, like, just know that you're lucky to be alive. You almost weren't. If those paramedics weren't there, you would not be here. So know that first. I was like, okay, all right. I'm just lucky to be alive right now. So, okay, now give it to me. And they asked me if I could move my toes or feel anything. And of course, the answer is no, 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 no. And then they started going down the list of injuries with me.
That was Jeremy McGhee, and this is the Yogi Triathlete Podcast. Welcome to the show. I'm Jess, your host, and along with BJ, my co-host, we are Yogi Triathlete Holistic Performance, triathlon and run training, mindfulness and meditation, yoga, and plant-based nutrition. Basically, the full spectrum needed to seriously kick butt in life and sport. Today, we are talking about some serious life butt kicking. The very reasonable concept of making the seemingly impossible possible. You know those people. And if you're listening to the show, there's a good chance you're one of them. That person who sees something unattainable and goes after it like it's their job until they bring it into their reality, no matter what others say, no matter what it looks like on paper, and no matter the doubts that show up in their mind. Somehow they persevere and serve as the example for all of us to witness what so many of us fall short on, turning inspiration into action. For 7 years, Bloody Mountain in the Mammoth Lakes area of the Eastern Sierras called to Jeremy, specifically the narrow gully and steep gradient of Bloody Couloir, a coveted descent for backcountry skiers and snowboarders with a pitch of up to 50 degrees and no way up but by foot. Jeremy's friends would go up and come back down and show him pictures, and he felt left behind. He felt stuck. A state of mind that fueled his fire to find a way to leave his wheelchair behind and not only climb, but ski down the infamous Bloody Couloir. Jeremy was a natural-born adventurer. Growing up in Southern California, he and his brother were always roaming the canyons and surfing the waves. All of that continued into his college and adult years as a lifeguard, first responder, and skier, spending his days at the coast or on the slopes. He took his sense of adventure to the road when he started getting into motorcycles, riding with friends, any excuse to get on the bike. After all the long rides, and no doubt some high speeds in there, Jeremy found himself one day falling into that statistic that we've all heard. Most accidents happen within 2 miles of the home. While out for an errand with a friend, he collided with a vehicle as he was accelerating, and in those moments, his life shifted forever. A runner at heart, Jeremy was left without the use of his legs and a whole new mountain in life to climb. But it was the Bloody Couloir that was the most symbolic of his journey and the expedition that we chat about today. Jeremy is an inspirational speaker with a TED Talk that puts you right there with him on the mountain. He is an adaptive athlete and an adventurer with so much more to explore. His movie Drop In documents his preparation and eventual conquering of the Couloir. His newest project, the Unpavement Tour, will make trail riding more accessible than ever before for adaptive riders, and his catalog of bicycles through his Sport On USA initiative are downright sick. Jeremy has been featured in Outside Magazine, Positive Impact, Body and Soul, and Backcountry for his athletic pursuits and willful desire to push his limits. He continues to find his life's purpose, and I can assure you it's not one that he could have planned. Thank you so much for tuning in today. We are so grateful to each one of you for supporting the show, from using the Amazon banner ad to becoming a supporter on Patreon. This month, we're giving away 3 pairs of 2XU compression run socks to 3 randomly chosen tribe members who leave a review on Apple Podcast. So, if you enjoy this show, please share your words with the world. It greatly supports the Yogi Triathlete Podcast, and it gets you in the running to win. We also have new merch on our shop page, yogitriathlete.com/shop. Awaken Ready tees, tanks, and a long sleeve for those who are committed to no longer sleeping through life. And speaking of sleeping through life, our newest Snooze is for Sissies is not only totally rockin', but it's a necessary reminder for all of us with athletic goals. You know what I'm talking about? That gap between when the alarm goes off and the decision to be up, or let's just stay with the theme here, be a sissy. I've been a sissy many a day, but then I think about some of our unbelievable guests like Jeremy, and I get my butt out of bed. We were connected with Jeremy through Marianne Lekas, our epic podcast guest from last month. Jeremy is a 2x U ambassador with us, and we are so grateful for this chance to connect with him and now to share the quintessential anti-sissy that is Jeremy McGhee. Perfect. All right, cool. Welcome to the studio where we do the nerve center of the podcasting, our elaborate studio here in Carlsbad. And you're a SoCal native, aren't you?
I am born and raised.
You're in Cardiff now, right? So just a few towns south of us. And tell us about growing up here in SoCal. Like, I mean, we're from Rhode Island, right? We're from New England. And I see, as I'm out for my morning runs and stuff like that, I see like kids before school hitting the surf, after school hitting the surf. They're on the volleyball courts. They're out there. They're always being active. And you can do that year round, which is a huge reason why we live here, because we wanted to be able to train year round. So tell us a little bit about what it was like for you, Jeremy, growing up in this area.
Well, I grew up a little bit inland, so it wasn't exactly on the beach. And my family was not active at all. So my little brother and I basically, we just like ran through the canyons in the Mira Mesa, Rancho Penasquitas, Del Mar Mesa area, Los Penasquitas Canyon.
Yeah, I just ran there for the first time the other day.
We grew up exploring that canyon, meeting illegal aliens out there. We swore, there's a little waterfall out there. We swore we discovered it.
That's awesome.
Because we stumbled upon it one day. And, I'm thinking about it, and that waterfall is a solid 15 miles from our house, and we'd go far. So yeah, everything we did was always outdoors, lots of skateboarding, lots of riding makeshift skateboard ramps in people's backyards, tromping through the canyons, that kind of stuff.
So you're always kind of like a discoverer, like an adventurer.
Yeah.
Do you remember the first thing, and we're going to get into your story even deeper, which is going to show this more and more, but do you remember like the first time that you saw or envisioned or felt something that you wanted to do that was quote unquote unattainable?
Wow, good question. I mean, really the first thing that comes into mind is Bloody Couloir in this mountain just outside of Mammoth, and just sitting there looking at it every day, wanting to be up there for years, actually for several years, looking at this mountain.
Did you live there?
Yes, I did, actually. I lived in Mammoth for 7 years.
And so you would look at that every day, and your friends were going up it. Mm-hmm. All right, well, let's back up the truck just a little bit. So, because that's going to be, I think, the meat of our story is this unbelievable feat that you've done. And we watched your TED Talk about it, and it was the way that you describe it in your TED Talk, and I'm just going to leave the listeners wanting a little bit more here, is just so unbelievable when you're talking about the pull-ups and how you got up there. Okay. So we're going to back up the truck a little bit. You grew up super active and went to school around here. Did you go to college around here?
I did. I went to Point Loma Nazarene University.
Where's that? Point Loma.
Yes, down in San Diego, down in Point Loma. It's a Christian school. It was like living in a big house on the beach because it's right on the water. I did not have to lift my head from my pillow to see the surf. So it's like living in this big house on the ocean with all your best friends, all you can eat buffet 3 times a day. I think it was a 4-to-1 girl to guy ratio. It was a good time.
I don't think anything was bad there.
Is that where you got into surfing?
I started surfing when I was young, about 10 years old. I remember my brother and I both had skateboards, and I can't remember which one of us it was. Maybe it was me. I think I traded my skateboard for a surfboard, and so that we had one surfboard and one skateboard that we would share. And we started riding our bikes down to the beach. It was about 8 miles or so to the ocean. And just started surfing.
With your surfboards.
Yeah.
So you do like a 16-mile ride, surfing. I love it.
Skateboard.
Yeah, and I remember we knew which exit our mom was a single mom, and we knew which exit she had to take on her way home from work. And so we'd ride our bikes to the freeway exit and hang out with our surfboard on the side of the highway. You know, this is the 80s, so there's no cell phones or anything.
Just waiting for her to get off.
And she had this little red hatchback Toyota. She'd pull over on the side of basically the off-ramp, super busy area, and we'd have to pack our bikes and surfboard and skateboard all in this little car. It was pretty hilarious.
Did you have more siblings or just the one?
We have an older sister.
And is she still around here too?
She lives in Colorado, actually. She's in the Glenwood Springs area.
Nice. And is your brother around here?
He lives in New Mexico now.
Okay.
Yeah.
You guys were pretty good buddies growing up.
Yeah, we're only 14 months apart.
Oh,
So, yeah,
Irish twins.
Yep, we're really close growing
Yeah?
up.
That's what they
So
call
the
them.
surfing, did you pick? Is it something you took lessons for, or is it? It seems like you guys would just dive in the water and
No
pick
way,
it up
man.
and
When you're 10 years old, you don't need a lesson for anything, right?
you just dove right in.
Dove right in, no wetsuit, no nothing. I remember my first wave I ever caught actually had a cast on my arm and a plastic bag over it.
So pretty much nothing would bar you from pursuing what you wanted to pursue at a young age.
I guess, I don't know, when you're a kid, you don't really know any better, you know?
Yeah.
I know,
Just
but
kinda-
I think there's a lot of kids that've got some fear of things, and I mean, I think because you've lived it, it might be hard to kind of pull back. But when I look at you, and I mean, I used to do some crazy stuff as a kid and as an adult, but I would feel barriers and limits of what I was capable of doing, and it seems like for you would just kind of like there was no hesitation. You would go.
I don't remember ever hesitating, so maybe.
Yeah. You were built for this. So take us through your story as you grew up. You started getting into motorcycles, and you kind of had your eye on getting a motorcycle. And tell us that story.
Well, at the time I was getting into motorcycles, I was honestly living the dream, I feel like. I was lifeguarding in San Diego during the summer and teaching snowboarding in Tahoe in the winters and starting to make a little money in my snowboarding career.
How old are you at this point?
Early 20s. Just graduated from college. I was waiting tables, lifeguarding, teaching snowboarding.
Sounds amazing.
It was amazing. I mean, living in San Diego, I still would get about 60 to 70 days snowboarding in the seasons that I did not live in Tahoe at that time. And it was fun. Surfing every day. And if there's no waves, going to the skate park. Yeah, it was definitely a good life. And I had this really cool motorcycle. It was an 87 Ninja. And I loved riding that thing around. It was super fun. And then I remember in 2001, Suzuki came out with their redesigned GSXR, and it was on the cover of a motorcycle magazine or something. And for some reason, this motorcycle just started calling to me, and I put it up on my wall. And one day, I just went and got it one day.
What was it about the motorcycle that you liked so much? Did you like the speed? Did you like the...
Well, I have a friend from college who is actually a Blue Angel pilot. And how he explains it's pretty cool. He says that riding a crotch rocket is more exciting than flying an F-18.
It's pretty cool, and I've never driven one, but I've certainly been on the back of one many times, a couple times going really, really fast, like in college. Like, let's see how fast we can get this thing. Just crazy. Angels all around me. And then another time was, I remember coming down the canyon in Boulder, just coming down the canyon with my sister's boyfriend, who's just a really skilled rider, and just leaning in with him and being like a part of that motion and that creation of this rhythm was so amazing. And for me, it was like, there was no fear. I could just feel like the connection of me and my friend and the bike and all of us moving as one. And there was like this unbelievable freedom to it.
Yeah, I caught the bug too.
Yeah.
It's really thrilling. And when you're 22 years old, whenever 23 years old, it's really cool. Things that were important to me then aren't so important anymore, of having recognition and being cool.
Yeah.
That was a big part of it too.
Oh, totally.
Yeah, to be honest.
It's so nice to get wisdom, isn't it?
I wouldn't say I have wisdom.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a little bit of wisdom. There's things that we used to think were important. I call it wisdom. You've got this motorcycle and you finally bring it into your life. And then did you have buddies that you were riding with and stuff like that?
A whole crew. I was in a motorcycle gang.
Nice. Did you have a name?
Jeremy?
No. No, did the gang have a name?
Oh, God, so long ago.
Oh, like a bike
Well,
name.
we were called the Dirty Dogs.
Nice.
The Dirty Dogs.
That sounds like a good
and all these
gang.
guys were actually really gnarly, and I was not like them. I just liked riding in a big pack, though. Yeah.
I love it. So can you bring us to the day where your life shifted?
Yeah. By we, I mean my buddy Chad and we were at the Charger game that day. And then afterwards, we were hanging out at my apartment in Point Loma. And we decided to go get him a cell phone. Just a simple errand. We're going to go to the Sprint store and get him a new cell phone. And so we jumped on our bikes. It was basically an excuse to ride our bikes. Mm-hmm. We're on our way to the store. And maybe 3 blocks from my apartment, I totally fall into that statistic. Was it 6 blocks? Or most accidents happen within 6
within
blocks
like
of
2
your
miles
home.
Of your home.
Something like that, yeah. I fall right into that statistic. And I was approaching a driveway entry into a little 7-Eleven strip mall. And I was checking. There's an RV parked on the side of the road. So I was kind of peering around the RV to make sure someone was not coming out. Another car was coming out of that driveway. So, being safe in my mind, when I was normally showboating and doing 90-mile-per-hour wheelies, I was usually that guy. And I was totally being safe, checking this driveway, and when I looked up, there was a car in front of me. Smashed right, and didn't have time to smash right into it.
And it doesn't even sound like you were going that fast.
No, but I was accelerating. So and not accelerating quickly, but accelerating nonetheless.
What do you remember about it?
I remember everything. I remember my face being smashed up against the side of the car, and I was laying in the street, and I couldn't see. And I later learned that my helmet was twisted sideways. That's why I couldn't see. And I couldn't get up. And I kept thinking, I can't get up. I can't feel my legs. And what happened next? What were my thoughts? Well, I was assessing my injuries as a medic, as a first responder, as a lifeguard. I was assessing my own injuries. So it was kind of mechanical thought process. And I thought, okay, I can't feel my legs. I must have broken my back. And it really hurt to breathe. Every breath was really painful. So I thought, okay, I've broken some ribs. It turned out I broke almost all of them, that was probably the most painful part of the whole thing. And then I tasted blood in my mouth. So I was like, okay, broken ribs have punctured my lungs. This is pretty serious, as far as, life-threatening wise. And then what I realized was the gnarly part. My face and my hands started getting cold really, really fast. And that's where I was like, okay, I'm bleeding internally, or where I can no longer feel, and I'm losing blood right now. And I started to get really, really tired. And, it was a warm Sunday afternoon, and the pavement just felt really, really warm and comfortable, and I just wanted to sink into it. And I felt at peace. Really, I wasn't panicking. I felt fine. I was completely comfortable with just going to sleep right there. The thought I was having, I thought about my mom and about my friends. I just want to let them know that I was okay. I was fine, and they wouldn't need to worry about me. That was kind of the thoughts going through my head. Then all of a sudden, there's this man's voice. He had maybe a southern accent or something, and he said, "Hold on, man, the paramedics are right here." And they were. There was a group of paramedics across the street at a taco shop having lunch. I mean, how long does it take you to throw your food down and run across the street? Just a few seconds. And so that little moment I had there in the street, although it seemed like a long time, was really, really short, only a matter of seconds. And they were on me. One of them, I guess, went and grabbed the ambulance. They took my helmet off and then I could see, and they had me backboarded and everything, and shoved me into the ambulance. They cut my brand new motorcycle jacket off me. I was super bummed about that. I tried to get him to stop. He's like, "Sorry, man, I have to." And the scissors, the scissors are so sharp, they don't even cut. They just whoosh. It's basically like a razor blade right through my thick leather jacket. It was pretty insane. And so that was gone. And then in the ambulance, the medic asked me if he could give me something to get me ready for surgery. I was going to go right into surgery. And I said, okay. He's like, "Okay, I need you to sign this." And my hand was strapped down. So he kind of moved this clipboard with this document down to my strapped hand. And I just held the pen and just like scribbled on it. And I remember apologizing to him. Like, "Sorry, it's not much of a signature." He's like, "It's okay." And then he had a syringe ready, stuck it in me. And next thing I know, I woke up in an MRI tube. Yeah.
Post-surgery?
Post-surgery. Yeah, he knocked me out right there in the ambulance, getting me ready for surgery.
Wow.
Yeah, and when I woke up, a voice came over the speaker in the MRI tube, and I'm assuming it was either the technician or doctor or somebody. And they said, "Before we ask you any questions or tell you anything, like, just know that you're lucky to be alive. You almost weren't. If those paramedics weren't there, you would not be here. So know that first." I was like, "Okay, all right. I'm just lucky to be alive right now. So, okay, now give it to me." And they asked me if I could move my toes or feel anything. And of course, the answer is no, 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 no. And then they started going down the list of injuries with me.
Of what they had assessed.
Of what they found, yeah. First, I had a laceration in my lower body that was losing a lot of blood, and so surgery was to repair that. They said something about a lacerated spleen that was going to heal. Said something about I think 9 or 10 broken ribs or something like that. Yeah, and broken hip, and then of course the T10, 11, and 12 vertebrae fracture.
So that's your thoracic spine. And with an injury like that, it's when we say like a C7 or a T10, it's basically your 10th thoracic vertebrae down.
Yep. So it goes your cervical spine, which is your neck, basically. There's 8 of those vertebrae. And then your thoracic vertebrae is your back. And there are 12 of those vertebrae. And as they get lower, they're bigger and bigger vertebrae. I mean, these are pretty big bones. And so the lower you go, like the bigger the space between like your injury level are. If you break your T10 versus like a T11, there's a big difference because the vertebrae are so big.
Interesting, because what's happening is the spinal cord is going down the center of all these, just to help people understand the anatomy. Like the central spinal cord is going down the center of all the vertebrae. And then there's little nerves coming out of each vertebrae. I don't know if it's between, I can't really remember, but between that. And those are innervating different muscles and parts of your body.
Organs, everything, yeah. And the thing is my vertebrae were shifted. Only 50% of my spinal cord was compromised. It was basically pinched. And when they put me back together, they put 2 screws through my spinal cord. I had surgery a few days after to put my spine back in place. And a couple screws went right through the spinal cord.
Was that on purpose?
No, it was a mistake. So who knows if I would have had a chance to, recover or not. It's kind of crazy.
Have you ever gone there?
Thought about recovering?
Yeah, like have you ever gone there? I mean, I agree with you. Like who knows? And the way that it shakes down, really, like the way that life shakes down is the way that it shakes down, and what is. But have you ever gone down that road in a negative sense? Like,
absolutely. I think to not go down that road is insanity. You know, you have to explore that. There's loss that needs to be expressed. And when you lock it up, and just deny what you're actually feeling, I feel like that's insanity. You know, you don't want to go down that road too far. I don't want my decisions and actions to be based on that. But I think it's important to be honest with how we're feeling. And yeah, in the beginning, I was super angry. I mean, we're talking, you know, dark nights alone in the hospital. It was definitely rough, you know, and I still have, I mean, what is it? That was in 2001. We're now 2018. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Yeah. And, you know, so we're 17 years later. I'm 16 and a half years later. I still have my days. And I even go through phases, you know, where it's maybe several weeks or a couple months long where, you know, I'm dealing with stuff. I always say I'm a runner. I was really into running. And I really miss running a lot, you know. And when I feel that, I don't want to ignore it.
No. And I think that to ignore it, to pretend it's not there, to try and cover it up I love the way you described it. It's insanity because it's not sustainable. It's not a healing way of working through something because you're not even working through it. We hear a lot about like mind over matter, but I don't think I think that's such a misleading thing for anyone to buy into. I think it's like mind in matter. And we had a guest on our show that really talked about that. And I love that, like mind and matter. Shane Eversfield, who's an ultra endurance athlete. And he talks a lot about like this training of the neural pathways, you know, changing our brain, and everything needs to be fully expressed. Like we need to fully express. Even if it's the deepest, darkest night, like if it's our shadow self just pinning us down, like to be fully in that and to fully feel that. And sometimes that means that, you know, all you've got is the breath you're in, or maybe all you've got is just a day in bed because you just can't function in the world, but we all have them. And I think to gloss over or to say that there's any other way to deal with them than to go fully in them is such a disservice.
Absolutely. Well, the most powerful Jedi is Yoda, right?
Yeah. He's just a little guy.
It's because he understands the dark side and is not you know, everyone's tempted by it. They're all Jedi are tempted by the dark side, but he understands it and can control it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why he's the most powerful Jedi.
So how do we even now, 16 years later, and you find yourself with that shadow self just wanting to move in? Because I know how that feels. Like in different the recipe might be different. If I was to describe what mine feels like and why it feels like, why it's coming up in yours, like maybe those words would be different. But I know what it feels like to be so just pinned down in that darkness. And so for you, what is your tool to like navigate that?
It depends if it's cloudy or not.
Seriously.
When the sun's out, it's a lot easier.
Seriously.
No, man, and every day is so different. Every day is so different. And my girlfriend and I debate a lot about this. You know, joy, hope, and love are the most powerful motivators. Of course, there's no argument with that. We've all read Born to Run, right? It's all about the Tarahumara, and their secret is joy. You know, they're running and giggling, you know, and so they're able to do these like ultra runs because they're just full of joy. So that said, anger and fear and those types of emotions are also very powerful motivators. No comparison, but can be harnessed in a positive way, you know. And so I tend to be kind of a self-destroyer kind of in a way. Like if I can put myself through pain, it helps me. And when I just, in my workouts, in my training, in my endeavors, if I can bring myself to this point where I'm just pushing through pain, it helps me get that out. I don't know. It sounds weird, I bet.
No, it's not. And actually there's like in the meditative world, so I practice meditation, and I work with people in teaching them meditation. And I always say that, when we're in that dark night of the soul, like where there's three things that can really help. And it could be just a negative thought that's hassling you, or it could be like a really dark, like, I don't want to be here anymore kind of feeling. And there's three things that will really help you process that. One is move your body.
100%.
Move your body. Go out and move your body, whether that's going for a walk or it's going for a 25-mile ride, or it's, surfing in a school of sharks, like whatever it is, move your body, whatever you need. And the other thing is aid another person. So somewhere go and assist another person. Yeah, be in service. So that could be buying their smoothie at the smoothie shop, or helping someone cross the street, or whatever it is. And then the third thing is go to sleep. Just rest.
It's true.
Because we get a lot of processing of things when we dream. We're tapping into our subconscious, and we do actually a lot of processing in the sleep. So, yeah, moving the body. And I think that this is such a perfect segue into the bloody couloir.
Yeah.
I want to get into that. Because the extremity, I think it's a perfect balance of the extremity of what you've experienced and the extremity of what you're achieving. Is like, there's a beautiful balance there between the two. Yeah,
I love the way you said that. I mean, my greatest coping mechanism is being active. The major emotional issue that I deal with on a given day is feeling claustrophobic, feeling stuck, And the way that I cope with that is moving in space, in nature. It doesn't change anything, but helps me feel better, when I'm exploring and pushing myself. Absolutely.
And that is such a beautiful thing about our bodies, is that it literally will give us chemical releases and feedback. It will give us reward for movement. It's so amazing. So let's talk about the bloody that you looked at for 7 years. It haunted you.
Yes.
Tell me about the first time you saw it. When did it call to you?
Well, I had just gotten my second mountain bike, adaptive mountain bike. My first bike was completely rigid. It had a drive wheel. You could pedal it, but there was no suspension. And back then, it was either or. It was either you had a drive system and no suspension, or you had full crazy suspension and no drive system, like gravity only downhill bike. And I had just sold my rigid bike with a drive wheel and gotten a full suspension 4-wheel. It looked like a little trophy truck almost. This crazy downhill bike, like
that's a sweet, soft ride.
Yeah, mini dune buggy. I mean, we're talking like 18 inches of travel, each wheel, full independent suspension, crazy. And I just gotten this bike, and I was dating this girl at the time, and I would make her shuttle me. I'd drive up, Mountain Road or whatever, and bomb down on my bike and make her drive down.
She was being in service.
Yes, exactly. And so there's this one road that I had been eyeballing for a while, this crazy switchback road, just off the highway outside of Mammoth. And I was telling a good friend of mine that I wanted to go do this road. He was like, no way. If you're going to go do that, let's camp in this meadow over there, and I'm going to hike and ski this really cool peak right over there. I was like, okay, cool. Let's go. Let's go on this adventure. So we went out there and we camped, and I did the road, and he and his girlfriend, now wife, they just had their first baby.
Yeah.
Which they owe me because I got them together. Isn't that how it works?
Yes.
If you get your friends together, they owe you their firstborn.
Right? Yeah. Do you want to make an official plea here to give the child up?
So that's an ongoing joke with us. But anyway, so they go hike and ski this thing. They come back down and we camp for the night again. And they've shown me their photos, telling me about their day, and I hear about bloody Couloir for the first time. And they talk about this peanut butter jelly sandwich picnic that they had on the top together, soaking in the view before they skied down it. And I thought, I want to do that. I want to be there with them. Like, I felt totally left behind. I felt like if I was not in a chair, I would be with them. And so I started thinking about this mountain and trying to figure it out. And it's not an easy mountain to get to. It's not an easy trail and ascent to get to.
And we just watched your movie, Drop In, that I highly recommend everybody watch. And the trek in is insane. And we can talk a little bit more about that in detail about when you actually went and did it. But the trek in is like, it's no joke.
It's no joke. There's about a mile. Well, we had to off-road down part of that road that I downhilled. And I mean, we're just thrashing our trucks. There's big boulders and you should have a lifted vehicle or a dune buggy or something or for this road. It's pretty gnarly. So we get out there and we have about a mile to get to the base of the Couloir, but this mile is snow, scree, boulder fields that we had to get through. My friends basically have to carry me over, and we got this toboggan that has a wheel that's snapped on the bottom of it. But for parts of it, that was too dangerous because it's just moving, sliding rock, and it's steep. So then they had a fireman carry me over moving scree fields. Yeah, it was pretty gnarly. Yeah,
it's crazy. So you get this inspiration. I mean, it's such a perfect equation because here you are going, yeah, this will be cool. I'll mountain bike and you guys ski, and then you're like. The word that's coming up for me is like this idea of feeling stuck. Like you, like in that moment, you were like, I can't do what they just did. That makes me feel stuck. Would you say that was?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Totally felt left behind, stuck, limited, blocked. Yeah. And so I wouldn't call it inspiration. I would call it obsession.
There you go. Here we go with like a little bit of like, I'm pissed and I'm going to do this, right? Here we go with the motivation. Yeah.
I definitely was pissed and I definitely needed to do something about it.
So tell us about like how did you get this crew of amazing people together? And was it more than just the core crew that we see you in the movie with?
Mostly the people that are in the movie are the people that are part of it. The folks that you don't see are the post-production people for the actual movie of making the film that puts tons of work into it. Alan Jacoby is one person that you don't see. He's the guy that made the film, basically.
And there's some pretty close-up, like, good footage of you climbing.
Yeah. When you watch the film, you see the guys that made it are really talented.
Yeah.
And the guys behind the camera are really talented too. And to get that amount of footage, to capture it the way they captured it, it seems impossible to me. I wouldn't be able to do that.
And it's an hour movie, so I'm assuming there was way more footage than an hour.
So much footage. Making a movie is a lot of work, and going through all the raw footage is a lot of work.
All right, so what's the first step?
Well, getting the crew together, as you said, and it seemed seemingly random. I had a guy, one of my best friends, he's a really good climber in Mammoth, Jeff Fox. He was going to be the guy to take me up Bloody. And he had a last minute trip that he had to go on. I wouldn't let him say no to this trip. It was a really good opportunity for him. So since he was not going to be there, he grabbed a couple other local climber guys and put me in contact with them. Now, the way I got in contact with Jeff, he wasn't my best friend at the time. He is now. But then I met him because I just put a flyer up in the ski patrol room in Mammoth.
What did the flyer say? What the hell did the flyer say?
Well, it said, hey, I'm in a wheelchair and I want to climb this mountain. Who wants to help me?
I love it.
That's what it said. It said. That's exactly what it said. And I had little pull-off tabs with my number.
So cool.
And he called me.
He was like, hell yeah.
He answered my ad. And And even though he wasn't the guy that did it, he is the guy that connected me with the guys that took me up there. Charlie Barrett and Matt Waugh are the two really good local climber guys that stepped up. And we became good friends. Mammoth Mountain was very supportive through everything, especially through the training. They put me up for free in employee housing, which happens to be wheelchair accessible, which is a big deal, especially in a small mountain town where everyone has stairs and tiny bathrooms and everything, So that was a big deal. I could, live comfortably while training, because rest was a big part of all this. And every day we had a spot on the mountain that the mountain closed off for us that we trained on to figure out the system.
Go ahead.
I say, just like surfing, you were like, how am I going to figure this out? But there's no training plan.
Nope.
To climb this mountain. There's nothing you can download online or buy or anything like that. You had to come out and figure this out for yourself.
Yeah, this had never been done before. We called experts, and
no one's done it.
No one has ever done anything like this before.
So the first thing you do, you go to find a spot in the mountain. What's the system look like? How did that come about?
I have some photos, and it's a total shit show. I mean, there's gear everywhere. One of the photos, you can see one guy's like duct taping my legs together.
So it's all trial and error.
My hat sideways, my hair's on my face. There's stuff everywhere, and we're a total mess. Experimenting with different body positions, different rig setups, trying to figure out what was most efficient. In the first couple of days, there was hardly any climbing or anything happening at all. I mean, we're just talking a couple inches, a few feet, and then we'd think of what needed to change, what we needed to do, or gear we needed to get, or what we needed to rig up, and we at night go work on whatever it was, go to this hardware store and build whatever we need to build, and then come back the next day and implement our ideas, whatever we worked on. And then every day it was kind of like small steps every day, becoming more and more and more efficient.
And then in the movie you talk about, is his name Mike Wellman?
Mark Wellman,
Mark
yes.
Wellman, oh.
Yes.
Mark Wellman, I apologize. He's a super incredible badass.
Yes.
And did you bring him in on to get some of his input on how to create this, whatever it was, mechanism of you getting you up?
Basically, what Mark gave us is we kind of copied some of his climbing rig ideas. Basically, how to make a pull-up bar on a Jumar and things like that.
And for people who don't know Mark Wellman,
he is a paraplegic climber and we call him the father of adaptive climbing. He was kind of the first guy that did it. He's done all the big wall climbs in Yosemite, which you think about, doing El Cap and climbs like that with just your arms.
Dude, I think about doing 2 pull-ups in the safety of my home. I mean, so this guy's doing essentially pull-ups.
His arms are the size of my body.
Yeah, there's one scene in the movie where you see his arms. I'm like, holy crap, that guy's massive. But the pull-up system's working.
Yes.
And so that's ultimately what you use.
Basically, we got threaded steel bars and threaded them into the Jumar.
And you just the most simple stuff. You got a bar, and you got there's no high tech NASA scientists on this thing. You ended up with a child sled, a pull up bar. So yeah, tell us about the final.
Some of the gear is pretty technical gear though. For example, we wanted me to be able to just focus on one motion, just doing the pull up, and not on having to do pull up and then feed the rope through. So we had a piece of equipment called a mini traction, where if the bottom of the rope is weighted, the rope is going to feed through the mini traction. And that's a pretty technical piece of gear. And I believe that Mammoth Mountain Ski Patrol let us borrow that because that's not a cheap thing, So they're actually, we're in a plastic kid sled and duct taping my feet together, but we did have some very technical gear involved.
And so it's a pull-up motion. So we're watching it. We see you constantly pulling up. Did you do any off? training work? So you weren't on the sled, you're at home. Were you doing any pull-ups or strength work like separate from being just on the mountain?
During training,
Yeah.
no,
Okay.
because climb training was all my body could do in a day.
Yeah.
But yes, leading in the months, probably close to a year or more leading up to training, leading up to, actually on the mountain climb training, figuring out. Yeah, I was in the gym constantly.
Pull-ups.
Yeah. Lots of pull-ups.
Swimming? Any pulling
Yep.
with the paddles?
Yep.
Yeah.
Lots of swimming, lots of pull-ups, lots of weight training, lots of cardio, all the above, everything.
Wow.
And with everything, I'm assuming there were thoughts of like, how the hell am I going to do this?
Oh, yeah. Oh, 100%.
How did you get, like, when those showed up?
Well, it's funny, the way some of my close friends talk about it. They're like, oh, yeah, Jeremy's got another idea. I've always been kind of known as, and truthfully, been a dreamer, and where I talk a lot, but things don't actually happen. So there was a lot of that going on. Like, oh, Jeremy's got another idea, and I was like, hell no, this was not going to be another one of those ideas that doesn't happen, And yeah, there's a lot of that, a lot of nightmares about actually skiing this thing too. I never skied anything like this. Lots of nightmares. I mean, this mountain was haunting me in my dreams. You see in the film, there's training days where it was brutal. And I of course I thought, like, how is this even going to be possible?
So back to the sports mentality, like percentage of physical versus mental. What was it? What does that percentage look like for you?
Man, that is such a good question, because my body actually completely shut down on the mountain during the expedition. I had run out of water. I was dehydrated. I have an old nerve injury in my left shoulder from playing football as a kid in high school. And my left arm was locking up. And I basically was about to quit. I didn't say it out loud, but in my mind, I was quitting. I was going to quit, and felt like a total failure. All these people, all this energy, all this work, all these sponsors, everything that had gone into this, and I was the factor that was stopping this. I physically could not do it. But another crew had hiked up the ridgeline, up a different route. They carried my sit ski and my skis and, food and water and stuff. And they had reached the top and were yelling down the couloir at us, and we could hear their voices. And another friend showed up in a helicopter just to kind of like fly over and say he rented a helicopter for an hour.
Awesome.
And just to just to see what's going on, And it's, I don't know, the helicopter flying overhead, and then the crew, my other friends yelling from up in the Couloir. I don't know. My body was shut down.
Your body was shut down, but something in your mind is starting to like
something switched. I got another boost of energy somehow from somewhere. I can't really explain it. I don't know if it was adrenaline or if it was spiritual. I can't explain it. All I know is my experience, and my body was done, and I was able to finish it. So whatever that was, it is a real thing.
How far into it were you at that point? How far?
We were about, maybe we had a third of the Couloir left, or maybe 2/3 into the climb.
And that's like, have you ever heard of David Goggins? The guy, the push-up record, Marine guy. Pull-up record. He talks about it. He's like, once you're at that point where you're 60% of your capability. So there's 40% left. That's triggered in your mind. And I'm getting chills, but not many people get to that point. Like, you're in this scenario. Like, and how can you recall that ever happening?
Oh, all the time. Okay. Riding the stationary handbike at the gym this morning, I was like, oh God, I'm not gonna be able to finish this workout. Yeah.
It's all relative to the moment. It's all relative to the moment.
It totally is.
So an experience like that, and a moment like that, and the physical, the physicality of that, the only thing you've got is the moment you're in. I mean, you cannot look further than that. Like the present moment, I would assume, shows up in a way where you realize like the only way you're going to make it up that last third is by doing it one moment at a time.
Yes, that is totally true. You hear me say in the movie, all I care about in life is just getting to Matt. And Matt was at the next anchor point, basically at the end of the rope length that we were currently on. And so that's all I could think about was just completing the rope length that we were on, one pull-up at a time. You know, and I'm not a big guy, and doing pull-ups for me is kind of hard. I have long arms, and so pull-ups are hard for me. I can't do very many. I think I could do like 7 or 8, you know, at one time before I have to stop and rest. That's a long lever. You know, see guys with these little short arms, like
Yoda.
just Yoda. Pump out bench presses. I can't do that, man. Yeah, like Yoda.
Yeah, Yoda's got really. No wonder.
It's just
a tiny little package. That one.
He just uses his mind to lift the bar.
What I guess what I'm getting at from the yogi standpoint, because this is the Yogi Triathlete podcast, is that the present moment is the only time that 100% of us is available. Mm-hmm. Like, it's the only time all of our power is available. It's the only time all of our strength is available. It's the only time all of our will is available. Because if we're living in the present moment, but our mind is in the future, or it's, on failure, or it's on quitting, or it's whatever. But when we get fully anchored into that and we feel that present moment, I know you're feeling every ounce of that next pull-up. Like, you're feeling that you're doing it. Like it's like being reinforced. And if you can do that one, then you can do another one. But it's that present moment. If we're anywhere else than fully 100% in the present moment, which the extremity of that physical feat like forced you to be, like there was no other way. I think when you got to that point where your body was done, the present moment just showed up because you had no other choice. And I believe that that's when you tapped into something deeper underneath all the physical. Like you tapped into that part of you that's just completely limitless. And that's what took you up.
How do you eat an elephant?
Yeah, one bite at a time.
One bite at a time, right? Well, the truth of that is focusing on one pull-up at a time. And the more efficiently you do that pull-up, then the less work overall. It's going to be more overall. So, yes, focusing in on the micro movements of that one pull-up is going to save effort overall and be much more efficient. Absolutely. And for me, the important part to remember is that our brains are very good at what they do. They're very good bargain shoppers, and our brains are really good liars when it comes to the amount of duress and uncomfortability and pain we're able to push through. Where our brain's job is going to tell us to protect us and tell us, don't do that, it's going to hurt, don't do that, it doesn't feel good. But in all reality, when we apply that to our physical endeavors, our relationships, our spiritual life, it's unnecessary. And we're able to push through a lot more uncomfortability than our brain's going to let on.
Yeah, you had to override that reptilian brain. You had to override it.
Yeah.
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 That I never thought of it that way. Okay. Do you remember the last few that took you up?
I do. I remember it all clearly. Yeah, it was super painful. You see in the film, I get to the top and I just drop a huge F-bomb.
Yes, you do.
It was just all I could think. I was so destroyed. My friend used the analogy. He's like, man, that was like running a marathon and then going and surfing Mavericks on a huge day right afterwards. Because now I had to turn around and ski this thing too, and I was destroyed. And that moment on top was short because we had a turnaround time. We had a cutoff that if we got to that, we had to turn around. Because when it gets dark out there, it's not good. It gets icy, it gets cold, it gets windy. And not having light, it would have been really bad, really dangerous. There's tons of rock fall. That was a real huge danger. I saw a couple rocks the size of microwaves fall off these huge rock walls. It's dangerous. That's why we're all wearing helmets and everything. So we were really only on top for a few minutes. I had a lot going on emotionally and physically. I was exhausted. I was destroyed. Super nervous. It was all I could do to not let on to everybody else that I was nauseous because I was so scared. And we signed the registry at the top. Little book that sits in a little journal that sits rolled up in a canister in a rock at the top of the climb, and you're supposed to sign it. Say, I've been here. Sign that. Had the PB&J mushed and smashed and gooey.
And was it good?
It tasted so good, man. When you're at that point, like, it tasted so good, and everything that it symbolized felt so good. To be out there in the backcountry with my friends, sitting on top of this mountain, seeing what's on the other side for the first time, because you don't get to see that from the base of the mountain. You don't get to see it until you're on top. The wild Ansel Adams wilderness, the Eastern Sierras.
You have to keep it together because you got to get down this thing. And what's the pitch? Let's give people a
50-degree average pitch. So
nice.
It's steeper than that in some places and less steep in others. But 50 degrees in the skiing world is steep. It's
pretty decent.
When you're there on the mountain. Okay, so we're sitting on the head wall, which is above the steep part, which is the steep part's about 50-degree pitch. When we're sitting up on the head wall, you can't see the rest of the couloir because it's like the world just rolls over and ends. Yeah.
I could feel that. I could feel, now that I watched the movie, like I'm like picturing, because I saw you up there, at the finish, and one of your amazing friends packed in your sit ski.
Yes.
And a baby carrier.
Yes.
And it sounds like everybody was really helpful except for the woman that sold you that baby carrier because she overcharged you.
Yeah, that was funny. We bought it at a thrift store. The baby carrier that we carried my sit ski up the mountain with. We bought it at a thrift store, and it was expensive, and the lady would not bargain with me.
I just love your friend. He's like, nobody's even going to buy this. Like, who's going to buy this thing? Nobody's going to put their baby in it.
He's like, a guy in a wheelchair is trying to climb a mountain, and you're trying to bargain with him?
So you get your sit ski, and now you got to, oh man, you need so much strength to get down.
Yeah, well, we decided I was going to ski this thing on belay, which basically meant I was going to have a safety line attached
pretty
to
smart.
me. And Charlie would dish out. Charlie would be anchored to an anchor. Would dish out enough rope for me to do one turn, and then I'd stop, and then he'd dish out enough rope for me to do another turn, and we're just gonna do one turn at a time down this mountain.
Because falling's not an option.
Falling was not an option, especially when you have a big metal thing attached to you, and you've got 150-foot cliffs right below you.
Are you feeling the fatigue in your arm? Did you still have that fatigue in your arms, or was the rest up at the top enough to just kind of loosen them up?
I was dead. I was toast, but it was still able to ski. My shoulder was the thing that was bothering me. The nerve injury, the old nerve injury in the shoulder, was the thing that was bothering me the most. And honestly, I was not good enough to ski this thing, so I was really relieved that we're gonna have the safety line.
So it's. Not only are you doing it like in a sit ski after doing, how many pull-ups do you think you did?
I don't know.
Thousands?
It was 3,000 vertical feet. So maybe 3,000?
That's insane.
I don't know. And again, this wasn't all me either. I did have a belay assist. The guys were helping me.
Yeah.
It wasn't all me. I obviously pushed myself as far as I could go, but I did have an assist too. So
right. But I don't think anybody listening to this or knows you is going to take any credit away from. But I mean, the people that you were with, just amazing camaraderie and team that you had with you. So was there, like, as you're going down? I mean, you just got to be so scared. But are you just, tell me about, tell us about that.
Well, what was scary is since we were skiing this on belay and skiing it one turn at a time, I had to do that first turn every turn. I wasn't able to link my turns and carry my momentum from one turn into the next. I had to stop and start the next turn from a dead stop every time. And
which is always, I think, the scariest.
Yes, and especially from a sit ski, it's multiplied. You have to initiating a turn is, projecting into the fall line, basically throwing yourself downhill, and then the ski will follow suit. And from a sit ski, it's really scary. We'll just say that.
So is there a point where they take you off the belay?
Yes. We got past the no fall zone. We took the rope off, and I was able to link up my turns and shred it up a little bit with my friends.
And what did that, one word to describe that?
It was fun.
Yeah.
Exhilarating. Yeah. The ski conditions at the top and through the middle of the couloir were really good. Towards the bottom, it was really bad because this was late in the year in a bad snow season. So it was rough.
What time of year of it? Because it doesn't look like there's a lot of snow.
This was in the summer. This was done in June.
June
2nd of 2012 is the date. And that whole middle part of the couloir that I just got to rip up with my friends, I felt like I was being me. I was skiing in the backcountry with my friends for the first time.
It's like the opposite of stuck.
Yeah, the opposite of stuck. Well said. Mm-hmm.
Beautiful. You've got an incredible TED Talk. You've got this awesome movie. How can people watch the movie? Can they watch it online? Do they buy the DVD? What's the best way for them to do it? Yeah,
we just do it by donation. If you go to dropinproject.com and make a donation of any amount, basically cover the shipping or whatever you feel like. Some people give more. Some people, give just enough. Some people send us a couple bucks. That's totally fine. And we'll send a DVD.
Awesome. Mm-hmm. Very cool. I highly recommend it. And so what's next? Because you are working on something huge with the MTB project.
Yes. Well, you've probably seen photos of my crazy mountain bike.
Yes.
Full suspension bike, the green machine.
You actually got me on the Coast to Crest Trail the other day because I watched a video and you were on it. I'm like, I need to go run that.
And you talk about obsession. I'm obsessed with the Coast to Crest Trail, and we are working on getting it completed and making it accessible.
There's sections riders that aren't they're not linked up.
Yeah,
right?
It's not done. But how cool would that be to have a long distance trail in San Diego that goes from Del Mar Beach to Julian?
Hell yeah.
75 miles, I think.
Julian? That's where... Oh, is that... Our shop is out in Julian, isn't it? There's a breakfast place or...
There's all kinds of cool little mom and pop restaurants out there. Yeah. They're known for their apple pie.
Okay. Yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah, so I'm obsessed with this Coast to Crest Trail. To be able to ride from Del Mar Beach to the mountains on one single trail is just a really exciting concept to me, especially in, the 8th or 9th largest city in the U.S. To have a trail like that is really, really cool idea. So I've got this bike. It can pretty much go anywhere. It's full suspension. It's got a drive system. I do have a power assist on it, and that just takes me further and faster than I would be just cranking with my arms. I'm able to keep up with my friends. I can go some pretty good distance with it, and it can go a lot of places, but it can't go everywhere. And I've run into some problems out there on the trails. And I even had to get airlifted out of Los Penasquitos Canyon one time. I was so stuck. I mean, imagine how stuck you have to be to call 911.
Yeah.
I was upside down in a cactus full of black widows with a broken chain. It was bad.
I think this is probably worthy of calling 911.
And that was after about 2 hours of hauling my bike through the super thick shrubbery because everything was overgrown after all the rains we had last year, Everything was way overgrown, and 2 hours of battling through the bushes. Imagine not being able to use your legs and dragging a big old 50-pound huge bike through the bushes.
Yeah, you've got a great video on your site, Problem Solving, where you come to there's crossing and there's just a tree down, and it's just you figuring out how to get through it. But now I see the bigger picture is that you want to remove these things so everybody can get on the trail.
Exactly. So I've run into these problems in my travels. I don't know if I can do a trail or not. I'll stop at bike shops and coffee shops and ask people, hey, where can I ride around here? And a lot of people don't know, or the answer is stick to the fire road, which who wants to just ride the fire roads? I want to ride the trails.
Hell
yeah, that's the fun part. So I called MTB Project, which is one of the largest trail information apps that mountain bikers use, and asked them if they were interested in documenting accessibility for adaptive riders on their website and app, and they said hell yes. They're all in. And they're owned by REI, so they're big. And so now I get to go ride everywhere and document my experience on the trail. MTB Project, the trails that I document will be featured on MTB Project on the specific page for that trail, so that adaptive riders can use the app like anybody else. They can have it on their phone and know what they're getting into. Yeah, it's really exciting. And we're calling it the unpavement because living life in a wheelchair, you're kind of relegated to life on the pavement. And we want to unpave people's lives and get them out on the trail. Trail information is one part of the project. The other is getting people these really cool bikes too, so they can get out there because, they're not cheap. They're hard to get, but they're really cool things. Like I was telling you earlier, I'm a runner at heart. And if I were not in a chair, I'd just be running through the jungle in my trunks, no shoes, with just a knife on my hip, And this bike is how I do that, is how I get out on the trail, running on the trail basically, and getting people out there doing that. That's all part of the project.
How can people support the project? How can they get involved with the MTB project?
Right now, we are shopping for sponsors, basically to cover expenses for the project. And that's the biggest need that we have. So if anybody listening is moved in any way or is interested, and when they check out the project, my website, jeremymcghee.com, is the best place to find information and to get in contact with me.
And you said before we turned the mics on, we were talking about this project, and you said that it's your life's work.
It's turning into that. It sounds weird.
It doesn't sound weird. And I guess my question is, how does it make you feel to say something like that, to be living this? And in lieu of everything that's happened in your life and those moments of the dark soul and all of that, to have it taken you to a point where you feel like you found your life's work?
Well, having purpose as a human being is everything. To be able to voice your life's purpose in a sentence, in a concise, clear sentence, to me, as human beings, is a really important thing. That's what I try to remember when I don't want to get out of bed, or when I'm not just not feeling like doing it, when the struggle is old sometimes, I just remember, hey man, this is your purpose. This is what you're here to do. To me, that's everything. To have purpose and to have goals, things we're shooting for, that we're striving for, changes everything in my mindset day to day.
That's awesome. I think it's a perfect place to end. Jeremy, thank you so much for coming up here and seeing us. It's such a pleasure. And I want to thank Marianne from 2XU for connecting us, because you're also an ambassador. Yeah, you work with them.
2XU is a great company.
We love them.
I don't know if I could do what I do without compression.
Seriously, I'm highly compressed as well. I freaking love it. It's
just the socks alone for traveling, just that alone is everything. But compression, what my arms go through in a mountain bike ride, especially a day of downhilling, I can't do without it. So yes, thanks 2XU, and thanks Marianne.
Yeah, she's awesome. All right, you're awesome. Thanks so much.
Thanks,
I'm
guys.
so psyched to be connected with you. All right, get connected with this guy. And if you feel so inclined, check out the many ways that you can support his endeavors. The Unpavement Project has the potential for tremendous impact in the world. And it is the long-term plan that through Unpavement, he will be able to subsidize the cost of the crazy, insane bikes that are featured on Sport on USA. All of these links are in the show notes for this episode, so go there and check them out. Please share this podcast with your community or organizations and friends that you feel will benefit from Jeremy's story. The Yogi Triathlete Tribe is growing every week. We are so grateful for your support, and we thank you, everyone who has purchased the Yogi Triathlete Cookbook, High Vibe Recipes for the Athlete Appetite. We get so fired up when you guys post pics of the recipes you're creating, and we know that the Iron Maiden dish is hot right now in the Northeast. It is such a great meal to warm up all those healing spices, and it's majorly power-packed. Our team of athletes is also on the rise. Right now, we're in the midst of our January challenge, which, thanks so much to our head coach, BJ, is to hold plank for the amount of minutes that equal the date. So yeah, there's 31 days in January, which means we're all going to be doing 31 minutes of plank that day, which means we're going to be getting in some major planking this month. And in total, at the end of the month, if we do it every day, which we will because we are not snoozing, because we are not sissies, we're going to get over 8 hours of planking in by the end of this month, which, like Jeremy's bikes, is totally insane. All right, so if you are into that kind of craziness and you've been wanting more guidance towards mastering your sport in life, then connect with us. Also, we have a great extra with Jeremy that we'll be putting up on our Patreon page for our supporters this week. We've got another yoga class that's going to be going up there and sneak peeks of next week's guest. All right, that's it for now. So much love and high vibes from SoCal. And remember that you are a divine creation that includes every bit of greatness that you dream about. You know those glimpses of life, the ones that make your stomach dance and your heart bounce? Well, just know that if we can see those in our minds, we can live those in our lives.